So JP's going to be on in a second, but he thought that the number that we were calling from was a scam. It said, call this a scam number. well, to be fair, Wes.
We've had that before, though, where we've called somebody and they thought we were a telemarketer and told us to never call back.
That's right.
So, I mean, at least JP
Hall of
didn't
Famers. We won't say who, but the Hall of Famers.
So, yes. JP, you think we're a telemarketer scammer trying to get you to buy like an extension on your car this weekend?
I wasn't going to buy it. I didn't know what you were selling, but I was not in the mood to buy it. But it said scam likely, and I got to tell you guys, every time it says scam likely, who would answer that?
Well, look, I got to be honest.
Likely.
I'm going to program that as Jeff's name now when he calls me in my phone. So it'll just show up as scam likely.
So, JP, you know, I don't know what kind of car you drive, but we need to sell you that undercarriage protection.
Well, I keep getting stuff that says, like, my student loans or, you know, whatever, or my warranties
they're not paid off yet.
I'm thinking, yeah, it's not right.
Well, I mean, look, I hope your heater in your car was working after the game last week. My wife and I were watching on the couch, and we were cold watching the wind blow on the jerseys and the flags. Have you defrosted from that game yet?
I have. I got to tell you, in all honesty, we're in the press box, right? So I didn't feel the cold as much as I did after the game when I walked to my friend's car to get a ride back, you know, into the city. And the wind was so bad, my face hurt, and I thought, I couldn't even imagine what it must have been like for the U.S. and Honduras to play in Minnesota, because that was like below zero, and this was like 20, maybe 25 degrees. So I can't imagine. It was bitter cold. That was probably the coldest I'd been in a long, long time.
Now, I know that they're competitors, but do you think there's a point at which somebody's saying, you know what, this might not be the day you want to hit a ball?
No, but that happened in the New England game. Did you see the video that went viral? Carlos Heel was basically saying, why are we playing this game? You know, They had like snow on the field, and, you know, it was bitter and the wind was blowing. So that was his impression of it, and he articulated it very well. Even though English was his second language, everyone understood what he meant. And it was not a good game, obviously, for those guys. It was a better result for Philadelphia.
You don't need to understand what he meant. All you need to do is hear him shiver.
Yeah, and they clearly couldn't see through they couldn't see through the snow that was coming down either. That game was kind of amazing to watch. I did want to ask about the start of the season for the team. This is a notoriously slow starting team. They're 2-0-1 with 7 points in 3 games. At the same time, they've looked shaky and out of sorts at times. What do you think?
You're such a Philadelphian.
But no, it's true. If you look at like the first game, the defense was a little more shaky. They haven't had all the guys on the field yet. Right. So I'm asking JP what he thinks.
I just think you're being Philadelphia.
JP, he thinks I'm a pessimist.
Yeah, I think the good news is that they've got 7 points out of the first 3 games, and this better news is that we haven't seen them anywhere close to their best, I would say, right? So I think that part's good.
That's how I should have said it.
Yeah, the disturbing part is that, you know, in the first 2 games, they gave up the first goal, and that's not the way they're built. They're built to really score first and hold things down and control the game, you know. In this case, they came back for a draw against Minnesota, came back with a win at Montreal. You know, that San Jose game, I didn't notice it until after the game when I really took a close look at the stats. They were really bad in terms of, you know, and they don't care so much about possession, but the possession was just like over 30-something%. You know, that's very little at home, right? The passing accuracy was below 60%. So those numbers were not good. You know, they had 12 shots. 6 of them were on target. That's good, but I can't remember, other than maybe one save that Marcinkowski made, where they were, you know, great shots. So I look at it this way: 7 points after 3 games, and we've not seen this team anywhere near their best. I think they've been doing better, more on the defensive side. They only allowed San Jose, despite all that possession, San Jose only had 1 shot on goal. So I credit the Union overall defense, not just the back line or, Backline and Martinez, but everybody with a good defensive effort.
Of the new guys, which ones did you look at and say, okay, this is going to be great? This is going to be the thing that puts them over the top.
Of the new guys,
yeah.
You said? Give me some candidates. Who are you thinking about? Because we've not seen the best one really yet. I mean, it's going to be Ua for sure.
Right.
And that's the challenge. We haven't seen Ua yet, but we've even seen like a Nathan Harriel, a homegrown candidate who's gotten time out there, who's really seemed to make the most of the opportunity. Seemed like unexpected that he would have it. What have you seen out of him out there?
Yeah, I think that, I'm not considering him obviously a new guy because he was here last year, but Harriel, from all accounts, had a very good preseason. And Bizo, who was the starter last year, was away for part of the preseason at the African Cup of Nations. And I was told that the only reason Bizo started game one was based on his experience and the fact that the job was his last year, because you could argue that Harriel had a better and longer preseason. So I think that Olivier did not have a good game in that first game. And so Harriel continued to do well. They made the change in that second game, and right now I would expect there's going to be competition at that spot. But I think for the moment, as of today, I think it's Harriel's job to lose. But I do think that there's going to be, competition for that spot for the first time in a long time, right? Because you had Bizo, before that you had Gaddis, before that you had Rosenberry. I mean, there hasn't really been competition for that spot. The starters pretty much claimed it.
So now we have the rematch tomorrow. And the good news for you is it's going to be about 70 degrees. So you got that going for you. How many of the Union players are actually going to play in this version?
Well, we've heard nothing negative about, COVID stuff anymore, thankfully. But
how motivated are they for this game?
Hey, actually, it's going to be maybe cooler than you just said, because we're calling the game off the monitor, in Philadelphia. So we're not even going to be at that baseball stadium, which is a fantastic baseball stadium, but a very poor soccer stadium. It's not, I'm reading a lot of stuff about this game, and it's not a revenge game, because even if the Union win this game, it's not avenging the loss last year in a conference final. Right. I mean, you can't equate the fourth game of the regular season to losing the Eastern Conference Final on your home field. So, and revenge, I don't see that either, because 11 guys are missing in that game, right? Including, your two center backs, your goalkeeper. So, who's out for revenge? Most of the guys didn't play, right? But it's a big game. It's a statement game, because I do think at this moment, these are the two best teams on paper and on the field, even though we've not seen either of them at their best. I think for whoever wins tomorrow, they'll have to be at their best to get 3 points.
You mentioned Yankee Stadium being a great baseball stadium. Obviously, Twitter had some fun with the unveiling of the NYFC flag for their championship last week. Can you talk about why it's so challenging to play on that pitch as a soccer stadium?
Well, I can tell you as a broadcaster how bad it is, because you're sitting behind home plate and the field is in a baseball diamond, so you're not looking at it like you would at any other stadium, from the halfway line and looking equally to both sides. You're looking at action that's 100 yards away from you when it's going away, or right at you, but at an angle, and you have no depth of perception. You don't know if that really was offside or not, other than on a replay. It's a tough place to call a game. I think from a player standpoint, I mean, the only good thing is that it's a grass field, so it has an edge over turf, but it's a smaller field. Guys, when somebody says it's 70 yards, my experience, no, it's not 70. It's probably like 65 to 68. So it's a narrower field. I think it's more mental too than physical. The dimensions are, the length is probably the same, but you're looking at it like from a diamond standpoint, and the fans are farther away from you than right on top of you. It's not like a home field advantage to me, like you have in Philadelphia, where, you take a corner kick in the Sons of Ben section and, probably block your ears because the noise level is loud. It's very intimidating, I would think. So I think that, I don't know why, though, the team hasn't won there. I think that's just probably a coincidence, more than anything else. I don't think the stadium psychs them out. I think that when you look at NYCFC, besides winning MLS Cup last year, they've been in the league for 6 seasons, and they've been in the playoffs all the time. And they've had great players like, the David Villas of the world, and, Lampard played there, and Pirlo played there, and now you've got Castellanos. They've had some great players, so I don't think it's the stadium that's caused this team to lose games, because this team is good enough to get 3 points in any stadium in MLS.
So we know you were out in the cold, but we also know that you were calling games indoors. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Indoor Soccer League.
I haven't called any games because I'm the president of communications with them. So if I want to call games, I probably have to change my title. Otherwise, it would seem like
you're the commish, right?
More of a Well, I'm not the commish. No, I don't want that. No. President of communications.
We're giving it to
the
you.
Only title. No, I don't want the headaches. No, that league has done fine. It's coming back really from COVID. It's going to take a while before they can get attendance recognition, back to where they were before. But we're headed towards the playoffs. Not there yet. Last time I looked, 3 teams had clinched. You've got San Diego, Kansas City, and Florida look like the class of the league, but there's other teams that are doing well also. The league has made great strides this year. We've only been on the job since, I want to say, June, and I think the pluses have outweighed the minuses, but there's still a long way to go.
You talk about the growth of that league. I did want to ask you about the growth of MLS. Obviously, it was a smaller crowded Subaru Park because of the weather. The next night, you're in Atlanta at a packed stadium. The week before that, Charlotte FC opens their franchise in front of 75,000 fans. Can you talk about what you're seeing from this league year over year as somebody who's watched it as it's grown?
And the sport, not just the league.
I think that when MLS first started in 1996, even the biggest optimist would never have said that would be almost at 30 teams, less than 30 years later, and that Atlanta would be one of the leaders in attendance, and Charlotte would get 70. Who would have thought any of that? I mean, remember, in the old days, MLS left the Florida market. They had a team in Tampa. They had a team in Fort Lauderdale, left them both. And now you've got Charlotte and Atlanta vying with each other to see who's going to have the highest attendance, not just among those two, but really in the entire league. So, there's been a series of moves that have been made throughout the history of MLS to get us to this point. Having David Beckham come over here was a major, major move. Having teams build their own stadiums, major. Building their own training facilities, signing younger players, bringing over other superstars. I mean, the list goes on and on. You could list 10 different things in terms of the growth. Supporters, traveling supporters, huge. I mean, you can't go to any stadium, and tomorrow you'll see, too, a great contingent of fans there from Philadelphia. The visiting fans agitate the home fans even more to make them louder, and thus you have the loudest atmosphere you would ever hope to have in any MLS game. I think the traveling supporters have been a huge difference. We see that overseas, especially in England, with the traveling supporters there, how big of a difference it makes, and we've seen it now in Major League Soccer.
Well, we can't wait to hear you on the call tomorrow from Studio for NYCFC. And hear you on the call as we go forward this season. JP, always thanks for the time, and I hope you're doing well, man.
Anytime with you guys.
You take care of yourself.